Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our second segment of Plane Time, the 17th broadcast in the series. Earlier this morning, we had a great interview with Mr. Ben Coleman and learned about his fabulous career as an aviation mechanic and pilot, and learned about some tips from him on how we can all be better at what we do, whether that's a pilot or mechanic or whatever. Following that, I have another great interview, this time with Mr. Brandon Gardner, who is the owner and operator, chief pilot of Premier Flight Solutions at Orlando Executive Airport. And although I've just met Brandon, I feel like I've known him for quite a while because he flies Bonanzas and he's a flight instructor like I am, and so we've got a lot in common. Let me tell you a little bit about Brandon before we get into our interview. He developed a passion for flying at an early age, about 12 years old, flying in a Mooney, which is a good airplane to start in, I guess. But it was a part of a program between the Boy Scouts of America and the EAA Young Eagles. And so that program really does work, I guess. It got you involved. And since then, your dream to become a professional pilot has evolved. He graduated from the University of Central Florida with a bachelor's degree in business management, began flying at Executive Airport in Orlando. He earned all of his certificates and ratings while he's there. And then about 4 years ago, he started Premier Flight Solutions, which quickly developed into one of Orlando's top flight training institutions and aircraft management companies for Orlando. Brandon has a pretty significant pedigree. He's a 4-time AOPA Distinguished Flight Instructor, won that award. He is a Gold SEAL flight instructor from the FAA, a Bahamas Private Flying Ambassador, a NAFI Master CFI, and was named AOPA's Best Flight Instructor in the Southern United States in 2023. He's an active member in AOPA, EAA, American Bonanza Society, and a whole bunch of alphabet organizations, too many to enumerate here, but to say he is totally involved in aviation would be an understatement. Brandon, thank you for joining me today. It's good to meet you and have you with us on this program.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, so I've given a broad overview. Tell us about your first flight in that Mooney and how it inspired you to become a pilot and do what you do today.
Sure. So I was 12 years old and my Boy Scout pack got to go to the Stewart Airport at Witham Field, and there were folks taking kids up in airplanes for the first time. And when it was my turn and they were asked, who wants to ride in the front? My hand went up and I beat everybody else, so I got to ride in the front and couldn't see anything. Couldn't see anything over the dash, but I just remember being infatuated by the gauges and the panel and no idea what was going on outside. And we landed and I told my parents that was it. This is what I want to do when I get older, and the bug never left. Here we are.
Wow. You and I are almost completely in a parallel universe, but mine is quite a bit before yours. But mine was also when I was a young person, not involved with the Boy Scouts here, as well before Young Eagles. But my first ride, I got to ride in the front seat as well. Thought it was fabulous. Couldn't see well out of the front, but I could look out the side window. So I wanted to see out the front, so I grabbed whatever I could and pulled myself up. To which to this day, I can still hear my mother in the back seat. I can hear her scream even when I go to sleep at night. That certainly startled her and me as well. But like you, that was my turn on to the passion of aviation, and I've never forgotten it, and I've never looked back. So yeah, we've got a lot in parallel there. So obviously you went to the university and studied business administration in preparation for owning your own business, or was that just an adjunct thing?
Well, I always wanted to be the kid who soloed on his 16th birthday, and unfortunately finances just didn't allow for that back at the time, and I realized that my path into aviation was going to take some money. And so I decided to go to school, and I kind of got a knack for entrepreneurship when I was doing that, and started a detailing business that eventually progressed into aircraft detailing by the time I graduated college, and that was kind of my introduction into the business side of aviation. And always wanted to be a pilot, still couldn't afford to do it. So my wife and I both had college degrees and no jobs, and we said, what about starting one of those food trucks? So we started some food trucks, and we did that for a couple years, and eventually we just got sick of that and sold them, and then all of a sudden I had money to go learn to fly. So I did. I went to school, and it took me 1 year, 8 months, and 3 days, not that I was counting, to go from zero, never flown an airplane before, to passing my CFI check ride. And I worked at the school where I learned for a couple years, and then I missed being in business for myself and started Premier. And we bought a 182, a G1000 182, and just kind of hit the ground running. And built a specialty around advanced flight training and really taking pilots to the next level. So once they go and get a foundation and do things, you know, the way they want to do them, we'll take them and add an instrument rating or a commercial certificate and, you know, specialty, high performance training, international training, things like that.
Very good. So how many years have you been in business now?
So we've been in business for about 4.5 years now, and I've been flying
years.
for about 7 years.
Very good. And how many hours do you have?
I'm getting close to 3,000.
Very good. So
Yeah.
it adds up after a while,
It
doesn't
does.
Yeah, indeed.
Every point one counts.
Yeah, and indeed it does. And how many hours of flight instruction so far do you remember? Or?
I've given about 2,500 hours of dual given across various makes and models.
So way more than half your total flight time.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I started teaching, you know, pretty much right out of the gate, and you know, teaching has kind of turned into a passion of mine, and I really enjoy it.
I understand.
Yeah.
I completely understand. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
for me, I enjoy flying, of course, but I enjoy teaching people how to fly or how to fly better and safer almost as much as I enjoy flying itself. And
Likewise.
So you and I have a lot in common here, a lot in parallel. Well, this is good. So how many pilots do you think you've interacted with as a flight instructor? Do you have any idea?
Well, at this point we've got to be in the hundreds.
I'm sure.
It's been quite the road, and we've had all sorts of folks come in and out, and but a lot of the people who we work with are owner pilots as well, and either at the very elementary level where they're serious enough about wanting to get into flying that they buy an airplane and say, teach me how to fly it, or you know, they're finally ready for an instrument rating, and they want to learn in the comfort of their own airplane. You know, we're the guys that take care of that.
Excellent, excellent. And then you also manage some owned aircraft for clients? And
We do. We have 6 aircraft that are in our network of management, ranging from 182s all the way up to the Piper M350, and we're starting to get into some of the piston twins a little bit. But yeah, you know, our management services, some of the owners are pilots and some of them aren't, and the ones that are, you know, they retain us for instructional services as well. The ones that aren't get the convenience of being shuttled around, and
Sure.
it's a win-win for everybody.
well, it is good, and it
Yeah.
certainly is a business niche that obviously was needed, and it looks like you fell into it or worked your way into it and exploited it to the maximum. So I think I remember in something I was talking about in your resume, in your bio, flying ambassador for the Bahamas. Tell us about that. What do you do as that? Are you working for the Department of the State or?
So the flying ambassador is an appointment that I was given by the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism, Investments, and Aviation. And what that means is the Bahamas government got wind of how much flying I was doing over there, how much teaching I was doing over there. And they said, well, you clearly know enough about what you're doing that we'd like to help rely on you to promote general aviation tourism within the islands of the Bahamas. And so I was more than happy to accept that appointment. And it's a completely volunteer position, and there's about 12 of us in the United States that actively promote general aviation flying in the islands, and it's my honor to do so.
Very good. Well, as I was telling you the other day when we were talking on the phone, I have 2 other colleagues in the Palm Beach area that are also Bahamas ambassadors for the Ministry of Tourism, and I've met and spoken with a number of the officials in the Ministry of Tourism. As a matter of fact, the Ministry of Tourism for the Bahamas is one of the major sponsors for Florida Aviation Network, and of course, we always enjoy promoting what they do, and tourism is the lifeblood of their country and the like. And so what kind of things do you do as this appointed ambassador now?
So a large part of my business has been teaching pilots how to fly to the islands on a very one-on-one personalized experience there. You know, it's a very much a hand-holding process. We show you how to do everything. But as far as what I do as my ambassadorship is I plan and organize group fly-ins. So private pilots who either have never been to the islands before or travel enough to where they just want every excuse to go, I work directly with the Ministry of Tourism, Investments, and Aviation, and we put together a really fun itinerary of places to stay and things to do and islands to visit, and we take you as a group. So it's a great experience for somebody who has always wanted to go but has never known what to do or where to stay or anything like that. And we organize fly-ins about twice a year.
I see. Is there anyone coming up anytime soon?
There is. So our next fly-in is a Halloween-themed fly-in. It's going to be the weekend before Halloween, October 27th through the 30th. And we're going to Green Turtle Key, which is in the Aba Coast. So it's going to be a 3-night trip. We leave on Friday, and we'll arrive in Treasure Key. We'll take a ferry to Green Turtle Key. We've got wonderful accommodations at a beautiful resort there called the Bluff House Hotel and Marina. And we have all sorts of really cool activities planned. From historical tours by golf cart, bar hopping. We have a boat tour visiting No Name Key to see the swimming pigs that the Bahamas are famous for. We're going to Guana Key for a famous beach party that's on a Sunday, and there's plenty of time to just relax and explore the islands at your leisure as well. So we kind of have something for everybody.
It sounds like fun. So that's a 3-night excursion. You said Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and then you come back on Monday.
That's it.
Okay, good. And you've done this before, I imagine?
Yeah, so this is my third fly out that I've personally planned. I've partaken in a couple of them when I was a newer ambassador. This fly-in in particular was organized by one of the first Bahamas ambassadors. His name was Terry Spurlock. He passed away last year. And I was asked by Greg Roll and Ahmad Williams with the Ministry of Tourism if I would take over Terry's fly-in in honor of all he did for the islands, and I was more than happy to do that.
Wonderful.
So I do that in October, and then I'll usually plan one of my own somewhere around March.
And so do you advertise this on social media or on your own website or both? Or?
We do. So I just put the listings up on our website, premierflightsolutions.com the other day. It's on the home page. If you'd like to participate, you can go to that website and click on the register button.
How many people routinely sign up for this and go on these excursions, Brandon?
On our last fly-in, which was to the Exumas in March, we had 14 airplanes and about 30 people. And that was a 2-night adventure in Freeport, followed by a 2-night adventure in Exuma. So we do some island hopping by airplane as well. Kind of depends on the caliber of trips that we're planning. So we're hoping this year, this October, to have at least 25 airplanes. I think we're getting close.
Wow, 25 airplanes and who knows how many people,
That's
50
right.
or more, I imagine.
Hopefully
probably.
so.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. And the cost for this, fairly inexpensive, or is it on the high side, or how does it work? There's a fee for the fly-in?
So there's no fee to participate in the fly-in. The associated fees obviously would be your own accommodations. There's fees if you want to participate in the excursions, and of course the fees of getting yourself there by your own aircraft. But we don't charge any type of fees to register. I don't make any money off of anything like this. This is just my way of giving back to the pilot community.
Wow.
And you know, even though a large part of our business, like I said, is teaching pilots how to do this, if you're participating in the fly-in and you need some help, it's my pleasure to assist with everything from your paperwork to flight planning and island hopping and anything that you might need to know. That's
Wow. So even though most people would say there's no free lunch in aviation, this might at least be a free snack, huh?
A little bit.
Learning about how to fly to the Bahamas and the like. And so you've been there, you said so far this calendar year 30 times?
about 30 times.
So I would count that as pretty well experienced. Yeah, that's pretty good. So
Yeah,
many of
not
your
all
flights
pleasure.
are just there to drop somebody off and then come back and go back to get them and bring them back home. And the
Yeah,
like.
so I don't get to stay. I wish I did, but
Yeah.
As far as dealing with the flight implications of traveling internationally and stuff, I like to think I'm well versed in that to where I can help people become comfortable at doing this on their own.
So is it rather laborious and rigorous to get the overflight permits and the entry permits and the exit permits and all this stuff, or is it easier than we might first think?
It's easy, but it's tedious, and I say that because it's really important to dot the I's and cross the T's. So we want to make sure that we have all the paperwork in place. I, like any other pilot, don't really like surprises. I'm sure you don't either. And sometimes when you're traveling internationally, there are just some more boxes to check. So what I do is, I help you with your overflight permit if you want to do that. I'll help you with your customs decals. I show you how to fill out the EAPIS. We'll walk through the Bahamas customs forms together. I want to make you comfortable enough to where after you participate in a fly-in, you have the tools and the confidence to go home and take your own airplane with your own family.
Very good. So it's a first time a learning experience, and then after that, just the joy of going back there on your own, and or participating in something. So I think we've got some B-roll slides of you flying in and around the Bahamas. We're going to put up some of those slides in a moment.
Great.
When you see them, you can address each of those on the monitor. But so maybe as many as 50 people in this October fly-in, you think?
That's my goal.
50 people, 25 airplanes or more?
That's my
That'd be
goal.
great. Now, do you fly over in formation or just loosely depart and end up at a specific airport?
Well, I always give the option. There are some people that like to meet as a group before we go, in which case usually Fort Lauderdale Executive is where we'll meet up if you'd like to fly over as a group. We don't do any type of formation flying. The other alternative to that is we'll meet in Treasure Key by noon on Friday, and we'll see you there, and everybody leaves from their home airport.
Excellent.
But we have people that come from all over the country. We've had folks from Texas and Georgia. I'm hoping this year that we get a couple from the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, that we've been in touch with, that they'll need to make a trek down to Florida first, and then we'll fly over. So,
Well, there'll probably be a lot of snowbirds who are already here by that time, so it's
Sure.
just a matter of making them aware of the upcoming fly out to the Bahamas, and I'll bet you'll get a lot of folks interested in that, particularly for the first time. So if you've never been to the Bahamas before, it may seem daunting. Take advantage of what Brandon and others in the ambassadors for the Bahamas are able to do for you for a fly-in. Now we've got some B-roll up here of shot you, it looks like in a high wing, flying over the Bahamas. So do you remember what we're looking at here?
I have no idea where that was, but I thought the water was pretty.
Indeed it is. It's more than pretty, it's absolutely gorgeous.
So this was taken in my 182 in March. We are on our way to Exuma International. So this was probably somewhere around Staniel Key, which is a famous island known for their pigs and the yacht club. And this was as we were descending into Exuma. We were low. This is part of our excursions that we plan. So in March we organized an ATV tour that went on for about 3 hours, and we got to drive around the islands and on the beach, and everybody had a great time with that. This was at a famous place called Chat and Chill. If you're a boater, you've probably heard of this. But it's a spot that's only accessible by boat, and they've got a restaurant and a beach bar, a conch salad stand, and it's just a really secluded piece of beauty.
It's only accessible by boat.
Only accessible by boat.
Okay, okay.
These were some participants in our fly-in. This was, I believe we were exploring caves here. So there were some natural rock formations that are caves. This was in Exuma. This is myself and the Director of Vertical Markets for the Ministry of Tourism, Ahmad Williams. Ahmad and I work very closely together. He accompanies us and all the pilots on all of our flyouts. So it's really neat that pilots have an actual member of the government and a host of the country there with us to show you a good time.
That is good. And when you mentioned Ahmad Williams, interview Ahmad during AirVenture just a few weeks ago. They had a big booth set up at EA AirVenture in Oshkosh, and Ahmad, along with other staff, were there, and so I got to chat with him about. He mentioned the Halloween flyout, or the weekend before a Halloween flyout. So I was already aware of that, and I'm considering going. A few things that may get in the way, but it would look like it's a fun time.
We would love to have you.
I'm sure you would, and I would love to go. I've been, excuse me, I've been to Green Turtle Key before. Flew into Treasure Key, and then taken the taxi down to the marina, and then the boat across to Green Turtle Key, and it's just absolutely fabulous. The view that you get flying into and around the Bahamas islands is just like no other place. It really is fabulous. Now, when you fly across the water, how high do you routinely fly, Brandon?
So for me, it's typically about 7,000 feet and higher. Most people will think that's in case we lose the engine. And sure, that plays some implications there, but the real reason is 7,000 feet is the base of Miami Center's airspace. So at that altitude, you are talking to a familiar frequency the whole way. So you're on with Miami Center until they descend you down to land.
If you get above 7,000, whose control are you in then?
It's still Miami.
It is, okay.
Yeah, 7,000 and above.
Okay.
Anything below 7,000, you're either talking to Nassau or Freeport, which although is intimidating for a lot of people, most people don't realize that they learned from the FAA controllers, and it's pretty much the same thing.
So you go up to 7,000 so that you're in Miami Center's airspace and you talk with them on the phone. Okay, good. So Of course, one of the things that pilots concerned flying the Bahamas would be concerned about, what do they do if the engine fails? Well, at 7,000 feet, regardless of what you're flying, you can be able to glide some, but
Sure.
possibly not all the way to land. Is that true?
That is true, definitely true. But, you know, like everything we do in aviation, there's always risk, okay? You and I take a risk, assume a risk, getting in our cars, driving to the airport, and deciding to go fly somewhere for lunch.
Or walking across the street.
Walking across the street. So my job as an instructor is to mitigate risk as much as we can. And most pilots are apprehensive to fly over the water because they think, oh my God, the engine's going to fail. The airplane doesn't know it's over water. You're not more prone to failure just because there's not land beneath you. So to talk through that, we obviously look at some safety aspects. So we take life preservers, we take life rafts along, we take emergency locator beacons along, we take survival equipment along. But what most people don't realize is that the Bahamas is so close to Florida that the amount of boat traffic going back and forth every day allows for a nice landing spot in the event of a water landing to where somebody is within reach of you to come and get you right away.
That is comforting.
It is very comforting, and there are hundreds of boats every day back and forth between the east coast of Florida and the islands. Somebody once told me that if you do land in the water, you want to land next to the largest boat that you see because they usually have better food on board.
So that's emphasizing the positive outcome, even in
It
emergency
is.
landing, right?
Yes, but you know, we mitigate the risk with the addition of the safety and survival equipment, but also we look at flight planning. So if you're one of those people that wants to always have something underneath you just in case, you know, we can look at maybe a gap between Fort Pierce and Freeport, which is about 55 miles, or we can go down south and look at Fort Lauderdale and Bimini, which is about 44 miles. And then once you hit your first island, it's island after island after island. And the water, although deep at some portions, is very shallow around the islands. I just spoke to a gentleman on the phone a couple weeks ago who did have a water landing. He was in a six-place Piper, I believe it was a Saratoga, new to him. And somewhere between Florida and the Bahamas, he had a total engine failure and landed in the water and was in shallow enough water to where he stood on top of the airplane and waited for a boat to come and get him. He since has been back many, many times. It's something that we plan for. He's actually going to speak at some of my planning seminars that I host. And it was really something else to talk to somebody that had experienced that, but was in the airplane next day doing it again. Come to find out, there were some screws missing from the back of the magnetos from what I was told. It had just come out of an engine overhaul. So again, that reinforces the importance of what we just heard about in the first segment today with appropriate airplane maintenance.
Yeah, indeed. So pilots trust their airplane engine when we're flying over land. Really don't really give a whole lot of concern to it. Yeah, I imagine we look for potential places to land if we had an engine failure. Sure. I tell pilots with whom I fly that the likelihood of the engine giving you a total failure is pretty slim.
It's pretty slim.
That would probably be the cause of fuel mismanagement.
Sure.
And so that's a pilot thing that we can fix or mitigate.
That's
right. What is probably even a little bit more likelihood is a partial engine failure. I mean,
sure.
A rod breaks or something like that, but the engine is still running and producing some thrust and allowing you to get a little bit further or have a better choice in where you're going to put the airplane down to land and the like. So, and as you mentioned, the airplane doesn't know whether it's over water or over land. It doesn't care.
That's right.
It's going to continue to produce power for you just like it has been. It's just mostly in our head. It's in our psyche that says, okay, I'm over water now. It's a whole lot riskier but it really isn't. And so I'm glad that you're telling pilots that and convincing them that this is a thing that we can reasonably and responsibly do.
Sure. And for the pilots of Florida, it's very boring here. We have north and we have south. And if you're in South Florida, you only really have north. We're not in the central United States where we have east to west and all sorts of new destinations to explore. And usually, from what I've seen from my fellow Florida pilots, Key West is a big jump. We're flying over water for a little short period of time. Some folks will fly over Miami and head down, hook around. But the Bahamas is only 55 miles off the coast of Florida. It opens up a whole easterly corridor for us to visit. And there are so many islands to explore. You can keep going out to Turks and Caicos. Really, there's not a significant gap with no options beneath you.
That's great. You mentioned Key West. I imagine you've been there in an airplane?
Sure.
And you've been to Freeport?
Sure.
How would you compare or contrast the two as far as distance and flying fun?
Well, I'll put it to you this way, Ron. I have a 182. I can fly to Freeport and be on the beach at my hotel having a beer before I can tie down my airplane in Key West.
Oh, wow. Wow. So it's that much closer
It's
to
that
Freeport.
much closer.
Yeah, yeah. So if you were to fly all the way to Key West and tie the airplane down, you could have already been to Freeport.
That's right.
And be at your hotel
That's right.
enjoying an adult beverage.
That's right.
All right, I think that's an interesting comparison that we need to consider for whether or not to go to the Bahamas or Key West. They're both great destinations. They're both great destinations, but the Bahamas, there's just the intrigue of flying to a foreign country.
That's right.
And flying to one that just has absolutely beautiful water, beautiful land, and a whole lot of things to do. It just really is amazing. So what are the things that you've done when you've been there? Scuba diving?
I'm not scuba certified yet.
Okay.
It's on my list, but I'm a
Okay.
big fisherman, so I always go
Okay.
fishing when I'm over there. And just really exploring, getting to know the locals. They're such wonderful people. They're such gracious hosts.
And laid back.
And yeah, it's a great time.
Yeah, it is truly a relaxing event. The times I've been there, I had forgotten what month it was, let alone what day of the week. I mean, just time just kind of goes on without you really caring. So
That's right.
It's just a beautiful place to be and a wonderful things that you can do. So in addition to what you've mentioned, I've done snorkeling and free diving and lobster, not fishing, but spear fishing for lobster and the like during the season and the like. And so it's great to come home with a fresh catch of fish or fresh catch of lobster. And
That's right. And you can
grill
bring
them
your
that
fresh
night.
catch back on your airplane. There's no
Indeed.
prohibition against that.
Yeah, yeah, very good. Well, I think we've got one or two videos. I don't think we've shown those yet. So when all our technical people bring up the videos, I was just going to mention again how fun and easy it is to fly to the Bahamas. Brandon's company and his role as an ambassador for the Ministry of Tourism can help you and me get ready to and enjoy an absolutely fabulous weekend or time over at in the Bahamas. And so we're now seeing this one video of your 182, I believe, is it?
Yep, that's it.
And tell us where we're going and what we're doing.
So this, let's see which video this was. This looks like Chub Key. This is in the Berry Islands. And this was a trip where I had taken over some of my instructors to show them what is necessary to teach our pilots.
Okay, good. So all those are all the places you can go?
Yep.
And in the remaining 2 minutes, we got, I don't know if we got another video or not, but here we're out on a boat, I can see.
We did a fishing trip, and, we have fun when we go over there. Even though I'm teaching you how to fly over there, we're not just going to go and come back. We're going to do something fun.
Yeah, that's good.
So we did some fishing here, had lunch, and flew home.
Excellent, excellent. So you can see in this video the beautiful turquoise waters and little slivers of land here and there, and every once in a while there's one with a runway on it, and so there's plenty of places to land. On my trips over there, I did island hopping, which I found to be very enjoyable, headquartering at one island with a hotel and then making day trips to other islands each day I was there, and that was so fun. So landing to the east here.
Yep, this is returning back to Fort Lauderdale, so this was a day trip.
Okay, good. All right. Well, it looks like you've had a number of fabulous experiences in the Bahamas, and there are more awaiting you, Brandon, and you in our audience when you take a trip to the Bahamas, whether it's through the Ministry of Tourism's fly in, fly out in late October or some other time. So it'll be a great time for you. So we have wings credit for your participation in the plane time today. And at the end of the broadcast, you'll see a code that you can use to get, along with instructions that you can use to get wings knowledge credits for participation today. So Brandon Gardner, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate you coming to talk to us and enlighten us about how easy it is and how fun it is to fly to the Bahamas. I wish you have the very best in your future at Premier Flight, and I'll look forward to seeing the islands one of these days.
Thank you, Ron.
All right. I'm Ron Timmermans for the Florida Aviation Network. We're broadcasting live in the clear from our studio in Orlando, Florida. Stay with us because we've got another session with Dr. George Bartuska to talk to us about hurricanes. So stay with us. Come back in 15 minutes.